And amid the controversy over Katchatheevu Island, now External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar has made another big claim. He has said, and I quote, in 1950, there was an exchange of views between Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru. Sardar Patel had warned Jawaharlal Nehru about China. In fact, Sardar Patel had said that today we are facing a situation of two fronts, which are Pakistan and China, which for India has never happened in our history before. Now, to this, Jawaharlal Nehru replied that you are unnecessarily suspicious of the Chinese. And in fact, S. Jaishankar also said that there was a time when Jawaharlal Nehru said that India is second, China comes first. Let's listen in.
In 1950, there was actually an exchange of views between Sardar Patel and Pandit Nehru on the issue of China. Okay, this is the last few months before Sardar Patel passed away. Sardar Patel warned Nehru, saying today with the change, because communists had taken power in 1949, he said today we are facing a situation of two fronts, which for India has never happened in our history before. See, in the case of Pakistan, I think it is, people know that Sardar Patel was opposed to our going to the United Nations, because he knew that in United Nations different powers will use United Nations. हमने आपको पता है कि जज जो है अगर ईमानदार जज नहीं है तो who will go to that court?
And CNN News 18's Abhishek Jha is now joining us on this story. Abhishek, so that's a big remark that is coming in from the External Affairs Minister, which actually proves that the Congress couldn't foresee the border challenges.
Of course, we have all talked about how Pandit Nehru, or the first Prime Minister of India's vision regarding China was flawed, in the sense that he trusted more on China and he thought that a neighboring country with such a huge geographical and other parts, that should have been given priority, and that was one of the reasons why India supported Chinese permanent seat in United Nations Security Council as well, and that despite the fact that there was not a consensus on the issue. There was Home Minister Sardar Patel who would oppose such views and who had tried to place in the center India's international interests first. So there is a clarity, and since then there have been multiple research papers and multiple opinion that has been expressed that this is where first Prime Minister of India did not foresee that probably in future China would come back to India, not in a friendly way or not in a kinder way, but rather in a more harsh, more competitive and more challenging way, which now the India is facing with the Chinese border clashes and Chinese competitiveness, especially in the region.
Absolutely, Abhishek. In fact, another remark that has been made by the External Affairs Minister is that for Jawaharlal Nehru, India came second and China was his first priority.
Well, that is to a great extent that is true, because India had just got an independence and it needed a lot of friendship and ties from across the world. And China being in the neighborhood and being a huge power, that also needed to be pleased. So this is what the approach of the first government of India was, that China needed to be pleased rather than China needed to be dealt with a level-headed or at an equal platform. And this is where the entire concept of foreign policy had been not appropriate, especially after decades of relationship with China. We have seen multiple times how Chinese have used India's kindness, India's magnanimity towards China, especially conceding Tibet also as part of the sovereignty of China, other bordering issues also, how China had not taken these kinder actions by the Indian side as a friendly gesture, and they have always wanted more and more. The recent renaming of geographical location that is happening in Arunachal Pradesh, and China continuously demanding that Arunachal Pradesh remains an integral part of China, is some of the such examples how Chinese aggression and incursion and aggressive posturing towards India has not ceased, even though India had tried to please China to a great extent diplomatically, internationally, and in many of the border issues also in the initial years of India's independence, when the foreign policy was largely being driven by Pandit Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India.
All right, Abhishek, please stay with us. Our senior editor Pallavi Ghosh is now also joining us on this story. Pallavi, we've seen that the BJP keeps on attacking the Congress over compromising the territorial integrity of the nation. And now this remark that is coming in from the External Affairs Minister will just give more ammunition to the BJP.
Absolutely. And there has been this counter which the Congress party has been putting out whole of yesterday, that if you're going to be talking about Katchatheevu, then you also have to talk about the intrusions, especially the post-Galwan incident, the Chinese intrusion in Arunachal Pradesh. S. Jaishankar had also done a press conference a few days back, and when he said that just because Chinese makes those claims doesn't mean that we have to go ahead and blame them. Believe them. The point is the BJP has always been making is that the Congress speaks the language of those across the border who are against India. I mean, just very quickly to give one example, in the last Lok Sabha elections, when many of the Congress leaders have started asking for proof of Balakot airstrike, that's exactly what the BJP accused the Congress of, that you're speaking a language which is being spoken by the Pakistanis, and it just goes on to show that the Congress is anti-national. As we are moving closer and closer to the first and the next few phases of the Lok Sabha elections, that's going to be the push and a narrative given by the BJP.
Right, Pallavi, also the Congress was hitting back at the centre using the China factor. They were questioning about the LAC situation, but now they are the ones who are being questioned.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, not just now, but, I remember the Prime Minister also, and then the External Affairs Minister, the Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh, had also on the floor of Lok Sabha given out statistics and evidence, according to them, to show that it was all compromised right from the time of Jawaharlal Nehru to Indira Gandhi, and how India's foreign policy at that point of time was framed in such a way it was not suiting the Indian interest. It was actually helping, our enemies across the border, whether it was China or whether it was Pakistan. As we were talking about yesterday, nationalism, national interest was a fulcrum of the BJP's policy and electoral slogans for 2019 is being brought back on the table, and the point is being made once again. Two reasons. One, of course, the Congress being accused of being anti-national or not being nationalistic enough, and second, thereby also embarrassing many of the allies of the Congress party who may not be comfortable with this narrative being pushed.
All right, Pallavi, please stay with us now. BJP's RP Singh is joining us on the story. Mr. Singh, so External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has made this remark that there was an exchange of views between Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru in which he had raised concerns about China, to which Jawaharlal Nehru had said that he is unnecessarily being suspicious of the Chinese. How would you like to react on this?
Well, Nehru wanted to be a statesman, like he wanted to be an international figure, and for that he compromised on the Indian security and Indian land and Indian boundaries also. And that's the reason that even for the UN seat, he gave it to China. He allowed China to be replaced by India in the UN also, and he said China first, not India first, and also that when China occupied our land, almost 34,000 square kilometers of land in Askai Chen, he even then didn't allow the Indian army or any other reaction on the occupation of the China on the Indian land. He was so much compromised as far China is concerned.
Right, but the Congress now also poses questions to the BJP government about the current situation that is worsening at the LAC. Well,
the former army chief is on record saying that not an inch of land is occupied by China during this period, and we have to believe the Indian army chief than the political party leaders from other parties.
All right, Mr. Singh, thank you so much for speaking with CNN News 18.